Nigerians not funding terrorism. Shegumi faults FG's list. Federal government discusses submarine cable protection with ITU. Tinubu suspends public-funded foreign trips for government officials. Let's look at headlines outside Nigeria tonight. United Nations says Sudan crisis, one of the worst humanitarian disasters in recent memory. Senegal set for presidential poll this Sunday after initial delay. Well, tonight on Politics HQ, we continue our coverage of the attack that has gripped the nation in grief, the attack on Nigerian soldiers in Delta State, with Nigerian troops mounting a manhunt for the prime suspect. We'll look at the latest from this tragic incident. Also tonight, while the Nigeria Labour Congress is singing Abure must resign, the Labour Party is singing Ajero must go. We'll look at the latest crisis engulfing Nigeria's second opposition party, the Labour Party. I'm Kofi Bartels. Politics HQ starts now. There'll be no going back until all suspects are connected with the killing of 17 soldiers last Thursday at Okuama community in Ughelli South local government area of Delta State are apprehended. This is according to the Nigerian Army. We're hearing that statement coming from a major in the Army with the JTF there. Troops are currently on a manhunt for the prime suspect in these killings, one Endurance Okodeh alias Amangben and members of his gang. The military, the Army, has been combing the creeks and hideouts across Delta and Bayelsa State. 2 days ago, they deployed a swamp boogie into the waters of Delta State. Joining us tonight on our coverage, continuing coverage of this story, we have George Brown. He's a security analyst, and we have Roy Okhidievbie. He's a security analyst as well. They both join us by video link. Gentlemen, it's a pleasure to have both of you. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening. It's always a pleasure.
Oh, all right. Thank you very much. I'm told that Roy will join us later. Sir, let's... I'm told that George will join us later. Sorry about that. Roy, it's good to see you and been some time. Let's start by looking at the causes of this. Now, you are an ex-security operative. You work for the security apparatus in Nigeria. You know a lot about what's going on. You're an expert. From what you've heard so far, from what you know so far, what will you say are the immediate and remote causes of this very gruesome killing, tragic killing of Nigerian soldiers?
I think the issue is already been overflowed on the media, and I expect that we need to put boots on the ground right now to redeem the image of the military, one, and to redeem the integrity of the communities, two. Those are the two things that have major perspective for now, because not everyone in that community was involved in the killing of the soldiers, and not everyone also in that community is a criminal. Now, if we look at the economic situation in that area, we will agree that it is an area that has opportunities for quick money through the oil and gas business, bunkering, and every other thing that the government is trying to stop. And being the military that is involved at the forefront, I'm sure that that exposed them to getting involved with mediation and this unnecessary conflict that took their lives.
Interesting. Roy, the Nigerians are still in shock, are still surprised, are still in grief. Some are wondering how a highly trained team of soldiers, this is Lieutenant Colonel A.H. Ali, a soldier of many years' experience, and his men, officers and men from the 181 Amphibious Battalion, were overpowered by civilians. What are your thoughts on that?
There are so many things that could have exposed the military personnel, but we cannot begin to predict until maybe when the culprits have been caught And we begin to hear from the military what their investigations is revealing. But one thing I am sure of is that soldiers under any kind of blockade or ambush, the first thing that comes to our mind as a military personnel is, am I actually fighting with a criminal for extrajudicial killings matters, or am I quickly ready to protect civilians? So we don't know. We don't know if there were other parties involved. We don't know. Some say they dropped their weapons, they were going for peace. Some said they were taken unawares. But what I understand is that an ambush is an ambush. And if you are not expecting it, the ambusher has the overpowering advantage. But then the military will come out and tell us what happened.
Interesting. Yesterday, the joint Senate panel, joint Senate panel comprising of the committees, defense, you have Navy and all that, while meeting with Nigeria's military chiefs over this very tragic incident, urged the adoption of technology, in particular, artificial intelligence and other technologies. Senator Benga Daniel, former governor of Ogun State, who chairs the Committee on Navy, made this suggestion. They feel that the adoption of technology, and in particular, including rather artificial technology, AI, will help them, apprehend the culprits. Is this easier said than done?
It's easier said than done. All of those things that they are doing committee over now is just hogwash. Now, what I expected of them is that they should have adopted the strategy to apprehend conflicts before it gets into escalated violence. If you do that, it's easier, it's cheaper for the government. Now, in all of those places, even a viral video that is trending where a young man was saying he's a son of a retired captain, you have military veterans in the nook and cranny of this country. If you respect military veterans, you should know that they have the capability wherever they live to influence the status quo and be able to represent the federal government appropriately, because that discipline is there. Now you want to go and start making a budget to start buying AI, imputing technology. Do you think technology can be imputed overnight? There are already procurement procedures that will take place before it gets here. Maybe it's 2026. Then you need to train those that will apply the gadgets. Is it in the training curriculum of the Nigerian Defense Academy or the military training schools all across the country? Do you have that device in training? Or do you want to take some people abroad to train them and bring them back to Nigeria? You see, so we quickly start to talk about things that we cannot achieve to cut down on an immediate risk parameter. It's not doable.
Quite interesting. Some of your colleagues in the security space always will point to the fact that intelligence gathering is very critical to forestalling any breakdown of law and order or any breach of security within the country's borders. Do you think that we need to strengthen our intelligence gathering across the spectrum of security agencies to forestall such attacks? Some point out that you have, for instance, a DSS officer in every, local government area, or is it every ward? And then we have, monthly security meetings in all these parts of the country to be able to brief, the sector of what's happening. So what's your thought on that, especially regarding intelligence?
When I hear people talk about strengthening our intelligence, it's funny, it's laughable, because Nigeria has the best and robust intelligence gathering system. We have open source intelligence, we have local intelligence, we have professional intelligence, we have religious intelligence, academic institutions intelligence gathering system. In fact, as I'm seated here now, I can create an intelligence gathering system that will harvest enough intelligence. Even without being in Nigeria, I can do that from here. Why? Because there are so many people that have passed out from universities that read criminology and security studies. There are so many people that have retired from all the security agencies, the DSS, everyone, that are just looking for what to eat right now. They have patriotism, and they have dignity. These are the kind of people that you can deploy. And I don't know why we cannot do that. But one thing I'm sure of is that there's political influence, because every intelligence you gather gets to the desk of a decision maker. And every decision maker is tied to a democratic government. And every democratic government is tied to a political party. So whose interest will be disturbed if such and such intelligence materialized into active intelligence and arrests are made? Prosecution is done. Just recently, we heard that the Chief Justice of Nigeria's salary was increased to 5-point-something million per month. And we have not increased the salaries of teachers and policemen and soldiers. So you can see where the dance is going to. And I think this compromise will continue.
So if we have such a plethora of intelligence framework, or in gathering mechanisms of personnel or institutions, you talked about religious, you talked about educational. Why are we in a situation where it seems like intelligence is not being gathered? Because you look at the situation in the country.
If you notice, Evans the kidnapper case took how many years for us to even have a headway? If you notice, Wadume case, so many security personnel agencies, they killed themselves because of Wadume, and it got into government's hands. I've not heard out what comes out. Now, if you notice again about Malami tenure, he went abroad, came back, he said he has the names of terrorist sponsors in Nigeria. Nothing has come out of it. Governor of Benue State was crying over the TV then, and they took some people into detention and they were carried to the courtroom, and we don't know what happened. And we have some people in jail too, in Kuje, in Abuja there, that broke out from cell, and some of them were rearrested. We don't even know what happened, what is going on. You can see that there's a blanket over our face that has covered our ability to activate relevance to all the intelligence that we have. So I'm sure people will start retiring from the agencies if they have any integrity left in them. As per the security chiefs and all that, whatever they are doing right now is efforts and in futility. Look at what the NDLEA is doing. I still repeat it every time. No noise, nothing. They are just picking up drug barons, drug addicts, and drug points, drug manufacturing agencies are busted. So that is what the military is supposed to be doing right now. So where are we in the hands of politicians?
You can see the pictures on our screen. Nigeria has become accustomed to such images. Maybe 20 years ago, these are things you would see, you would think, okay, you see them in Afghanistan, you see them in Iraq, you see them in other parts of the world where we have conflict. But it's become a part of our lives now in this country. Are we headed for the Abies? Are we headed for the Abies? Some have said Nigeria is headed the way of Venezuela. Some have said Nigeria is headed the way of Haiti. I think it's going to get worse.
I don't know what people call the Abies, but in a country where over 200 school children will be abducted, and for over the years we have not even had any uhuru, and just recently many other adoptions have been done. I don't know what anybody call an Abies when a girl of about 12, 13 years old would be in the hands of drug addicts and criminal elements in the bush for months and for years, being raped day and night. I don't know how they sleep in their houses thinking about these things. I wake up at night with this kind of trauma in my head, thinking, why will we allow our children to be in the hands of criminal gangs, raping them consecutively throughout the day, throughout the night, and asking for trillions of naira? Who are the sponsors? Where is the Abies that they are looking for? Venezuela and other countries cannot be compared to Nigeria because the triangles of defense that we have is greater than our exposure. Why are we not utilizing our triangles of defense? That is where we are.
So I think it's going to get worse. You're saying they're already bad, but are they going to get worse in the coming months and years?
I expect to see more on the side of the military veterans coming out again to expose all the neglect that is happening in the military, because currently the motivation of troops is to see yourself exit from the military and go out into a comfortable life. But that is not possible. So when you are deployed to the Niger Delta, Delta State, Warri, or anywhere there's oil and gas, you find yourself getting into the rigmarole of criminality because you need to take care of yourself. If you find yourself in the Northeast, you need to get into how to better your finances because you want to come out and take care of yourself. So we need to look at all of the exposures. There is something called political terrorism. Nigeria adopted this system immediately. Nadeco took over and they were able to turn over the military regime to civilian regime and use the military again to oppress the police and other agencies and use the area boys, the hoodlums, to oppress their opponents. So politicians are open to two systems of oppression. The military to oppress other agencies. The police cannot talk. The DSS and all of them cannot even do their job anymore. The hooligans are there to deal with any civilians that is coming out to talk about the government. So where are we?
We hear that the community of Okuama is where the attack on the army personnel began. It's currently deserted. When the governor went there with his crew, journalists were barred from entering there. Is the fear of human rights abuses in the pursuit of this culprit, is that fear a valid one?
Human rights abuse is definitely a kind of global charade when we talk about the global human rights system, because in different country constitution, there are also directives to protect the people. So you don't need to have a human right, especially when you are a citizen. You are supposed to be a #1 concern of the country. Now, American citizen was kidnapped in Nigeria, between Nigeria and Niger. All we had that was Nigerian troops came, US troops came, put boots on ground, and they rescued their personnel. One person, one American. Meanwhile, and that is America that is as big as how many continents in Africa, that one state in America might be even bigger than Nigeria itself, but they still remember that one person. So if we put the life of a Nigerian before us, we don't need any human rights concern. The military should not go into Okuama and go and destroy anything. Why? Because those people are part of the reasons why they are wearing that uniform. The military intelligence should look for the culprits, to look for the criminals and deal with them decisively the way we know how to. And the innocent ones will not suffer. If you show them love, they will even give you more information that you expect, more intelligence that you didn't expect, and it will help you to close the ranks quickly.
How are, such, non-state actors, because we hear of one suspect, Endurance Okodeh, alias Amangben, maybe one of these so-called, militants, if you want to call it that, or local warlords, and his gang. And that's not the only gang. There are other rival gangs in the area. How is it that these individuals have access to weapons that they feel so bold enough to confront the Nigerian army?
The confrontation of the army have started since that hooligans were given upper hand to talk to politicians. Let me ask you a question and ask Nigerians a question. Do you know how many of these hooligans, area boys, have been together with politicians when military generals come there and the politician is saying, oh, take this for you and your boys? There is a video that went viral to where a governor was going and he met a checking point. And he parked his car and he was giving the soldiers money on the checking point. What kind of insult is that? So if you look at Tompolo himself has been given opportunity to cover some of the areas in the creek. Is he saying he doesn't know that boy? Then if you look at the other man in Port Harcourt, the guy went to Abuja to also congratulate President Tinubu. And inside the presidency, with presidential TV coverage, he was mentioning that he is in charge of security between Abuja and Kaduna. He's an area boy. He's a militant. He's mentioning inside the presidency of Nigeria that he's in charge of security between Kaduna and Abuja. And we have a military, and we have the Brigade of Guard present in the presidency, and he was not arrested. You know, and he wields weapon with his guys. Where did he get his weapon? He's using IG approval, or which approval does he have? You know, so we should just forget about the integrity of every area boy and believe that they have political approval to do whatever they want to do.
Do you also suspect that some of these non-state actors are emboldened by politicians who use them for political purposes, particularly during elections?
We are not suspecting. We are telling you what is viral. We are telling you how Asari Dokubo went to Abuja in Aso Rock. We are telling you how a viral video shows a Fulani man from another country that was caught, and he said the Fulanis were in the bush, that it was politicians that came to give them army uniforms and weapons so that they will operate before the 2015 election. We are telling you about Tompolo that override the Navy. He was given the job to protect critical assets, which was a constitutional role of the NSCDC, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. People collecting salary from our tax, and they don't have job to do because an area boy have taken over the job. We are telling you about so many of them. They are bound. You know, so this political dispensation that we have, they employ area boys to become the agency of their choice, and they employ the military to oppress other security agencies. And that pattern is already keeping the people vulnerable, whom the police and the other agencies are supposed to protect. What is the business of the military with mediation and conflict resolution? When you have the police, you have the local government system, you have the traditional system, and you have the federal government system to also intervene.
Roy Okhidievbie will be back to talk some more about this. For those of you watching at home, I want to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue with our conversation. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching Politics HQ. We're continuing our coverage of the tragedy that occurred in Delta State in Nigeria, southern Nigeria, where 17 persons lost their lives, unfortunately, following an attack on a military convoy on a peacekeeping mission, according to what the military is saying to us. As we speak, the Nigerian army have embarked on a manhunt for the suspects, a prime suspect named as one Endurance Okodeh, alias Amangben. He and a member of his gang are suspected to be hiding in the creeks between Delta State and Bayelsa State. Our guest tonight, joining us from Texas in the United States of America, Roy Okhidievbie. He is the National Secretary. Well, he's a security analyst, and he joins us, like I said earlier, from the United States of America, National Secretary of the Retired Members of Nigerian Armed Forces. He's in Texas, like I said. Mr. Okhidievbie, let's look at the some of the suggestions that some Nigerians have made. Looking at the conflict, this conflict could have been averted or could have been handled before it got to this point. Two communities, Okoloba and Okuama, are fighting over land for some decades now, over some years now. We have, the police, we have the civil defense, we have state security advisor and all that. Some are asking why we should see soldiers who probably should be in the barracks engaging in settling a land dispute between two warring communities. What do you think about that?
There are more than that, what you just mentioned, okay? In the judiciary, there's something we call mediation and conflict resolution. You know, I'm sure that was not mentioned. There is also an institute in Nigeria called the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conflict Resolutions, and I'm also a member of that institute. I'm a fellow of that institute, ICMC. If you go there, you will see senior advocates and other kinds of judicial acumen, people with long-time experience, and they told me, and I saw it in practice because we had a lot of cases we ran together where mediation can douse the conflict in proper legal battles. In mediation, you can still leave the table standing as friends, and there are means to achieve all of that. We have the traditional means, the village heads, they can come together. We have the religious means, some pastors, imam and all that, they can come together, but mediation is on the agreed terms of the people in conflict. You cannot come to mediate my case now with a theme that I am not interested in as a mediator. As someone in conflict, I have the right to decide who comes in as my mediator, just like you can go and get your own lawyer for a case that you want. So I think that they approached it the wrong way to involve the military in whatever mediation they are coming to do. The military is a backup, a very lethal backup. When the military shows up, everybody is supposed to keep quiet, so you should have brought in the different levels of mediation and find that there is no resting place. And the military can only come in when there is an ongoing conflict, where there is violence, use of arms. But I don't know. I don't really know why at that point they could call military men into that kind of creek where it's supposed to also controlled by the Navy. The Army and the Navy have their different roles and responsibility. Why not even the Navy?
This was an amphibious battalion.
Yes, I am an amphibious trained soldier. I was trained in Calabar for my amphibious. I have my crocodile badge before I left the Nigerian military as a retired personnel. So I see the water to land attack opportunity. All those creeks that they are looking for people, the Navy has the map. Okay, and members of the military that comes from those communities can easily sit down and draft a route for you where you can go, and they can even make 1 or 2 phone calls and you will get all the details that you need. You need to build trust, motivate the troops, and have an in-house collective system for everywhere and everywhere in Nigeria that you want to go into.
So are you saying that there was no way or no reason for soldiers to get involved into a land dispute? But for those who are in the Niger Delta, they're used to seeing soldiers be involved in such disputes. In fact, it seems to be a remnant, of the days of militancy, if we can call it that, where the Nigerian army was deployed to the streets of places like Port Harcourt, Warri, and so on, to handle that crisis, that situation. And they remained. And some governors in the South have formed the habit of creating what we call joint task force, comprising the army, the police, and all that. So they're all over the place. Cross River State, River State, Bayelsa State, Delta State. This one was called, they call them Bomadi JTF. That's what locals call them. So what do you say to this? Because we still have some of these issues to deal with in the Niger Delta.
From what information we have had, the real cause of the problem was a fishing creek or thereabouts. I don't know if that is what you have also, and encroachment into land. Now, if you look at a JTF, Joint Task Force, if you say it is a group of security agencies, which agency is the lead agency? There should be a lead agency. If the problem is within the communities where people live, the police should be the lead agency. If the police try to gather intelligence and it is beyond them, they contact the DSS. The DSS works with the police to gather all the necessary intelligence. And once it is actionable, they want to effect arrest. Then if the arrest is going to overpower them, they will involve the military. So even if the military is with them, the military does not act per se. You only create intimidation for the police to act. When I was posted from Kaduna to Lagos from one mechanized infantry division, I arrived in Dodan Barracks. I think that was when they started Operation Sweep. In those operations that we did then, at the onset, the military was only there to intimidate criminals so the police can be effective. We don't even question people. If there's need for any arrest and it's beyond the police, we pop in, and we don't even write statements or take people to the barracks. They are taken to the police station. So where all of these issues of the police becoming insignificant is because of our political reviews. The police is only seen now carrying women, the wife of a governor's bag, or carrying a politician, escorting him to the airport is traveling.
Roy, I could also put it to you that the Niger Delta is a very volatile region. Following what happened, it started as an agitation for the rights of the people who produce Nigeria's crude oil, and moved on from there to become something else. Weapons in the hands of these boys, you can call them, who are very now skilled in handling all sorts of weapons, and money too, from theft of crude oil. In some communities, in some local government areas, you don't even have a police post. I know of one particular one where they chased away the police. They chased away the police. And in Pidgin, some would say police, their power no reach for some parts of the Niger Delta. Isn't that why we see the army there? What do you say to that?
I will still go back to status quo. Anywhere you see the army, sir, the army is to intimidate, coerce, and hand over back to the responsible agency. If this government is sincere, which I will believe it's sincere because we are Nigerians, we are supposed to be patriotic to any elected government, I will expect them to start up mass recruitment for the police. I will expect the constable in the police to get 200 and something thousand naira salary as minimum, especially after you have removed your tax and everything, because if you do that, people from those areas will also join the police. We need policing. We need immediate multiplication of what we have. We need to increase the bar of the basic entry level of a police officer, minimum NCE or national diploma to become a police officer. And you will have thousands of people that will be interested to get in with a good salary and good motivation. Now, anywhere you bring in the military must come in, take over the crisis, quell the crisis, create calm, and withdraw. They must do that because the numbers of personnel you have in the military will not be able to police the whole country. That is where you are having problem right now. We are in the Northeast, there's crisis. In the Niger Delta, there's crisis. The crisis there was quelled. There was peace treaty signed. And Asari Dokubo and everybody, Tompolo, they all signed peace treaty. There was amnesty. People were sent abroad for training, for school and everything. In that process, you would have created a solid policing system. But we always forget to do the first things last and the last things first.
All right. Just correct, Asari Dokubo did not submit himself for amnesty because he said that he was not a criminal, so he was one of those cities submitted. But I want to thank you very much. We have to leave it at this. Roy Okhidievbie, thank you so very much for your time. National Secretary, retired members of the Nigerian Armed Forces and security expert, joining us from Texas in the United States of America. Thank you.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure.
Right, pleasure is us. We'll continue the conversation when we come back from this break. We will talk about what's happening in the Labour Party. Stay with us.